our today's topic is incremental model. Our group number is 5. I am Eli Kenny and I talk about introduction of incremental model. This is the one model of software development life cycle. In this model, we have to divide our whole requirements into standalone modules, and we deliver series of releases which called the increment. So in one project, we deliver multiple increments to the customer, and customer can use all the modules one by one. So that's why it is called the incremental model. It's also called the successive version model because we deliver lots of version like the version 2, version 1, version 2, and we can add new things in the previous model. So mainly the workflow is linear like the waterfall model, because in every module we have to do some phases like the analyzing, designing, implementing, testing. So the workflow is linear, but if we talk about the whole module, then it is the iterative in a nature because we do all the modules one by one. So mainly this is used when the customer is sure about his or her requirements, and the developing team is also know that what they develop. So when there is no confusion about the requirement, then also we can use this model. Now let's talk about the steps of this model. Like in the first, requirement are specified. As I told earlier, that in this phase our whole project's requirements are finalized. So now what we do, like this example, this is the increment 1. So this is like A. Then we add some new features, and this is like our increment 2. Sorry. And this is our increment 3, like we add something in previous model and we deliver to the customer. So like this we have to do in our project. So this is for increment 1, this is for increment 2, and like this we can do like increments for the n modules. So firstly, after the requirements are done, we prioritize our modules. Which module customer want first, or which is the important module in our project. So we start analyzing the project, like we start analyzing the modules requirements. Then we start designing like the static web pages. Then we do implementation like the coding part. Then we do testing. So for this module, then we do deploy and maintain the module. Then we release our first increment to the customer. Then customer use this increment or our increment, and he or she can give feedback to us. So these changes we can do in our increment 2, but we cannot change our increment 1. So this is the limitation of this model. So after all the modules are released, then our project is done. Then we again take the customer's feedback. So in this model, the customer interaction is most and error chances is less. So yes, this is the increment model. Now tell us about the when and where it used.
So we have learned about what exactly the incremental model is. So I'll talk about when and where to use this model. So firstly, when the requirements of the system are clearly understood, so we can use this incremental model. So as shown in this picture, so this model can be only done with the right bricks. So we may go to the wrong way if we misunderstood the requirements. And second, when the demand for the early release of the products arises. So as we have just mentioned, the important features will be prioritized, that the main features of the product or the project will be completed earlier. So if the client wants that project to be released earlier or sooner, so we can use this model so that we can release the project sooner because the main features has already finished. third, when the high-risk features and goals are involved. So we break the big task into small tasks, and each small task will go through a process like development and analysis and testing. So for example, if we implement the first 3 increments successfully without any errors, so when we implement the 4th increment and the whole system crashes, so that means there is something wrong with the 4th increment. So we have to do something to fix that problem. So this is actually one of the advantages of this is incremental model. So where do we use this model? So we mainly use the model in for the web application and the product-based companies. So for the web application, we can add new features to the web application easily, and these new features can be deployed very easily. And for the product-based companies, as for these type of companies, the requirements can be easily understood. So it would be a better choice for us to use the incremental model. Okay. So that's it for my part, and we will talk about the advantages and disadvantages.
Hello, I am Vidhi. As we have learned about incremental model and why and where it's used, let's learn about its advantages and disadvantages. The major advantage of this model is it is easier to manage and stress is minimized, as in this model the project is divided into small modules and each module goes through a process. The process includes analysis, design, testing and deployment. As the model goes through this process, the testing is done and the errors and bugs are recognized, and it becomes easier for the developers to solve it. Also, if any features are to be added into the model, or any little or tiny error has been detected, it can be also solved by including it into the next model. This makes it really easy for the developers to manage, the stress is minimized, as well as the error is recognized in the module, and also the time is less consumed. Along with it, the second advantage of this model is that after completion of each module, a feedback has been taken from the customer side. So as the feedback is taken, the customer also become known to the system, and their feedback is also taken into consideration while developing the next module. As I said, it consumes less time, and also it proves to be really helpful for large industrial projects, as well especially for the projects which are to be launched earlier in the market, as in the project each module is developed, that first module can be launched in the market earlier. Let's move to the disadvantages. So the disadvantage of this module is that the requirements must be clearly defined, as well as the planning and designing of the module should be done really properly and closely, because after the development of each module and the entire project, if something is missing or the requirement is not specified according to the client, then it will cause huge problems and issues. Along with that, if during the merging process, if the models are overlapping or dependent on each other, then it will also cause a great issue in the project, as well as it will become difficult for the developers as well as the teams to manage that issue. And lastly, the system architecture. While planning and designing, the system architecture must be taken into consideration, because while development of each module, the technology and the system architecture compatibility must be really good. Otherwise, every hard work that developer and the team has put up will be wasted. And also another disadvantage is that it is expensive than waterfall model. Let's take a look at the example. In this example, as you can see, in the first, let's consider this as phase 1 of the incremental model, then phase 2, and then phase 3. As you can see, as we go through the phases, the entire model, or we can say the project, has been developed, which is a really good advantage, because after one model has been completely developed like properly, then only we go to next phase and develop the next module. But the disadvantage is that if here I want to add something, or like I want to change something in this part, it cannot be done. So this is the disadvantage of this model. I tried to explain it through this small example. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Long. I'm the principal of ABC College.
Okay. Myself, Vidhi, I'm the project manager. I have heard a lot about your college.
Okay. So I'm planning to set up a new campus, so I need a new website, right? So I want my website
Assignment section in the website,
Yeah,
so
in the
the
website.
teacher can upload it and the student can have access to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. So basically that's all the things that I want in my website.
Yeah, I understood. I have noted down everything that you explained to me, and
Mm.
from what I have understood from my point of view.
Mm.
So there will be student registration, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Courses,
Mm.
online lecture, and lastly close materials and assignments, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So do you have any like a priority on what you want first?
I would say it's the student registration.
I'm Haley and I am in your team.
Yeah, I came to know about you. So one of the client came today, and he's the principal of the college,
Okay.
and he stated out his requirements in
Okay.
order to start the online classes. So these are the requirements that he think are necessary first. So what do you think we can do in order to launch these requirements as early as possible? Because he was saying that college is going to start from 1 month.
Okay, so like this is the very large project, but if we need some requirement first, then we can divide the whole system into modules and we can deliver one by one. So for this we need to use incremental model, because in this model we delivered multiple increments to customers, and we also take the customers feedback. So this is also good for our company and our whole project quality.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And also in the while we were discussing the project, he stated that he wants the student registration one urgently.
Yeah, so we first start the developing of the student registration and we release the first piece.
Okay, then fine. Do you have any doubts?
No.
Okay, then we will set up the meeting after 2 weeks, and then we will discuss it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hello.
this is our first module of registration of ABC College, and from my side our developing team is done with this module, so you can look.
Yeah, let me take a look at it. I think it's really good. The look can fill, and
Mhm.
also the functionality is excellent. So I think it's ready to be delivered to the customer.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned before about the student registration, the application is ready. So just see it.
Mm.
What changes you want to make? Like give us your feedback so we can understand.
I think the functionality is quite good, but I think the background can be darker and the font
Okay.
size can be great and larger.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but I think it's good.
Okay, then I have taken a note of your feedback. So the changes cannot be done right now, but in the next module, which is online courses, we will include those changes.
Mm.
So you don't need to worry about it.
Great.
I had a meeting with the client, and he mentioned that the functionality of the application is excellent. He also told that he didn't like the background color and the font size of it. So can you make
Okay.
changes to it?
Yeah, this is not possible to change in our phase 1, as you know, we already delivered.
Yeah. I
But
understand.
I will change this in our all other modules, and now I will start our phase 2 of the online lectures,
Yeah.
and I change the color.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.